It was a quiet afternoon in downtown Los Angeles, the kind of day where even the city's noise seemed to take a breath. Inside a small corner diner, the kind with neon lights and checkered floors, a man sat alone at a table by the window. He wore a black leather jacket, dark jeans, and tinted glasses. His long hair was tied neatly behind his head. He didn't draw much attention at first glance, but there was something about the way he moved. Slow, deliberate, aware. It was Steven Seagal, though most people around didn't realize it yet. He was sipping his tea, completely calm, flipping through a small notebook he carried everywhere, jotting notes, meditating in thought. The waitress knew him as a polite regular who always left a generous tip and rarely spoke unless spoken to, but that quiet wouldn't last long. The door swung open. A group of 4 young men, loud, laughing, full of false confidence, walked in. They wore street clothes and carried the swagger of people who had never been told no. "Hey, look at this guy," one of them said, smirking. "What's up, old man? You meditating or napping?" The others laughed. Seagal didn't even look up. He calmly placed his teacup down. The laughter echoed behind him. "Yo, I'm talking to you, sensei," the same guy said, walking closer. "You look like one of those fake kung fu teachers from YouTube." The diner went silent. Even the waitress froze. A few customers exchanged nervous glances, sensing something was about to happen. Still, Seagal didn't move. He simply exhaled, slow, steady, and said in a low voice, "Walk away, son. There's no need for this. That only fueled their arrogance." The leader snorted. "What are you gonna do, Grandpa? Bore us to death?" The group burst into laughter again. One of them kicked the leg of Seagal's chair, hard enough to jolt the table. The tea rippled, but Seagal's expression didn't change. He adjusted his glasses, his calm now more intimidating than any threat, and then silence. The kind that fills a room right before a storm. What happened next made everyone in that diner drop their forks in shock. The diner had gone quiet. You could hear the faint buzz of the old ceiling fan and the hiss of oil in the kitchen. Every eye was on the man in the black jacket, and the group of loud-mouthed bullies now circling him like hyenas that didn't realize they were mocking a lion. The leader, tall, tattooed, wearing a backwards cap, leaned over Seagal's table, grinning. "Come on, man, say something. What's wrong, cat got your tongue?" Seagal looked up, calm as ever. His voice was deep but gentle. "I said walk away, son. It'll save you pain you don't need to feel." The laughter that followed was sharp and ugly. "Save us pain? Dude, you sound like a movie script. What are you, some old-school martial artist or something?" One of the others, smaller but meaner, snatched Seagal's teacup and poured it onto the floor. "Oops," he said with mock regret. "Guess the old man doesn't need his tea anymore." The waitress, frozen behind the counter, whispered to another customer, "Should we call someone?" The man beside her shook his head, eyes locked on the table. "I think we should just watch." Seagal took a slow breath. He wasn't angry, not even close. He'd seen this kind of thing too many times before. Ego, insecurity, boys mistaking noise for strength. He placed his notebook back into his pocket, folded his hands, and said quietly, "You don't know who you're dealing with." The leader scoffed. "Oh yeah? Some kind of ninja? Man, you're in LA, not Japan." He reached down and shoved Seagal's shoulder. The motion was fast, too fast for most to catch. Seagal's hand barely moved, yet the bully's wrist twisted in a way that made him cry out. A sharp yelp cut through the diner. "Let go," he screamed. Seagal released him instantly, his gaze steady. "I told you, boy. Don't touch what you don't understand." The leader stumbled back, clutching his wrist, red-faced and humiliated. His friends froze, unsure whether to attack or retreat. The smallest one, red with embarrassment, growled, "You think you're tough, old man?" He kicked Seagal's chair again. This time, Seagal rose slowly from his seat. The movement was deliberate, fluid, like water flowing uphill. He wasn't angry, just centered. His sheer presence filled the room. Standing fully upright, Seagal towered over them, broad shoulders, expression unreadable. He didn't even adopt a stance. His body language alone spoke louder than any words. One of the bullies whispered, "Wait, this guy looks familiar." Another muttered, "Nah, just some wannabe tough guy." The leader forced a laugh. "You think that little trick scared me? You just got lucky. Try that again." He stepped forward, squaring his shoulders. "Don't do it," Seagal warned softly. "But arrogance doesn't listen to wisdom." The leader smirked, pushing Seagal's chest with both hands. It was the last mistake he'd make that day. In a blink, Seagal's hands moved, a blur of motion, no wasted energy. The bully's arm twisted, his balance vanished, and in one fluid motion, he was flipped flat onto the diner floor. The sound echoed. Gasps erupted around the room. Silverware clattered. The other bullies took a step back. The smallest one swore under his breath. "What the hell was that?" Seagal didn't advance. He simply adjusted his jacket sleeve and looked down at the man groaning on the floor. "I warned you. Walk away." The leader scrambled to his feet, eyes burning with humiliation. "You're dead, old man," he shouted, rubbing his arm. "You're so dead." But deep down, everyone watching could see it. Fear had replaced his pride. From a corner booth, a man whispered, "That's Steven Seagal." "No way, that's him." The woman beside him blinked. "The actor? The martial arts guy?" He nodded. "Yeah, but that's not acting." The whispers began to spread. Phones came out. Cameras rolled. Seagal looked around the diner, at the terrified waitress, the silent customers, and the bullies now hesitating to move. His expression softened. "Leave before you do something you can't take back," he said. "But humiliation is a dangerous motivator." The leader, desperate to save face, spat on the floor and growled, "Nah, we're not done, old man. You think you can embarrass me like that?" His friends, reluctant but loyal, took a step closer. Seagal sighed. He'd given them every chance. He glanced at the waitress. "You might want to stand back," he said calmly. The bullies tensed, ready to rush him. The crowd held its breath. The storm was about to break. Have you ever seen someone pick a fight with the wrong person? Tell us in the comments below, and let us know, which country and city are you watching this story from? We love seeing where our audience is tuning in around the world. The air inside the diner had shifted. What started as mockery was now heavy with tension. The bullies circled Steven Seagal like a pack of restless wolves, but none of them realized they were about to charge a tiger. The leader cracked his neck, still red with humiliation. "All right, old man," he snarled. "You had your fun. Let's see what you can do when it's 4 against 1. The smallest of the group laughed nervously. "Man, let's just go," he whispered. But his warning was ignored. The leader was too far gone, his pride louder than his sense. Seagal didn't move. He stood rooted, calm, unbothered. One hand loosely by his side, the other resting over his belt. His voice was quiet, almost compassionate. "You boys really don't want to do this. Shut up." The leader barked, pointing at him. "You think you're some kind of kung fu master? We'll show you how real men fight." The first bully lunged, fast and wild, a sloppy punch aimed at Seagal's jaw. It never landed. In a movement so fluid it looked unreal, Seagal turned his body just enough to let the strike pass harmlessly by. At the same time, he caught the man's wrist, twisted it, and guided him to the ground as if gravity itself had betrayed him. Thud. The diner echoed with the sound. The man cried out, clutching his wrist in agony. Seagal hadn't hit him. He hadn't even used strength, just precision. The crowd gasped. A woman near the door covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "Did you see that? He barely touched him." Another bully rushed in, furious. "You'll pay for that." He swung twice fast. Seagal blocked both strikes with minimal effort, almost lazily, then used his attacker's own momentum to spin him around and shove him against the counter. Plates shattered. The man slid to the floor, dazed and groaning. Now there were 2 left, and the leader and one friend, both staring, uncertain. Seagal's tone never changed.
"Walk away," he said softly.
The leader clenched his fists. "Not until you apologize." Seagal tilted his head slightly, amused. "For what?" "For making us look stupid." The bully barked. "You did that yourself," Seagal replied. The leader roared and charged forward. The crowd gasped, phones raised, recording every second. What happened next looked like something out of a movie. Only it wasn't. Seagal sidestepped, pivoted his hip, and in one flawless motion, caught the leader's arm, spun him, and brought him down hard. The sound echoed like thunder on the linoleum floor. The bully's cap flew off, and the entire diner erupted in shouts of disbelief. "Holy crap," someone yelled. "That's Steven Seagal." Recognition spread like wildfire. People whispered, "It's really him." The martial arts legend. The actor. But Seagal wasn't basking in attention. He didn't even look around. He simply stood over the fallen men, breathing evenly, completely in control. The smallest bully, the only one still standing, took a hesitant step back. His voice trembled. "Hey man, we didn't know. We didn't." Seagal raised one hand, palm open. "Then learn something from this," he said. "Respect, control. Those are real strength, not ego." The young man nodded quickly, helping his friends up. But the leader, pride still burning, spat on the floor. "You think this is over?" Seagal gave him one final look, the kind that cut deeper than any strike. "It's over when you stop fighting the truth," he said. The diner was dead silent. Even the waitress, who had been shaking moments ago, whispered, "That's the calmest man I've ever seen in my life." The bullies stumbled toward the door, muttering under their breath. Their swagger was gone, replaced by bruised egos and sore joints. As they exited, the entire diner erupted in applause. People clapped, cheered, and whistled. The sound filled the air, not just for the fight, but for the lesson they'd just witnessed. Seagal turned to the crowd and gave a small, respectful nod. "Please," he said quietly, "violence isn't something to celebrate. It's something to control." The applause softened. People looked at each other, realizing he was right. The waitress stepped forward, smiling nervously. "Sir, that was unbelievable. You didn't even break a sweat." Seagal gave a small smirk. "Sweats for the gym." "This was just a reminder." She laughed, shaking her head. "A reminder of what?" "That piece is powerful," he said. He placed a few bills on the counter, far more than the cost of the tea, and turned to leave. The crowd parted, giving him space. No one dared to stop him, but every eye followed his steady walk toward the door. Just before leaving, he paused and glanced back at the humiliated bullies standing outside. "You still have a choice," he said. "Change who you are before life teaches you harder lessons." Then, without another word, he stepped out into the sunlight. The door closed behind him with a soft chime. Inside, the silence was broken only by one man whispering, "That wasn't a fight. That was art." If you were in that diner, would you record or step in? Type your answer in the comments below. Outside the diner, the sun had started to set, painting the street in gold. The bullies limped away quietly, their confidence shattered and their arrogance replaced by silence. Inside, people were still buzzing from what they'd just seen, their phones in hand uploading the footage, voices overlapping in disbelief. "Bro, that was Steven Seagal." "The real Steven Seagal." "Wait, the actor?" "The martial arts guy from the movies." "Yeah, he just dismantled those punks like it was nothing." Within minutes, every table had someone replaying the video. The clip spread like wildfire across social media. Steven Seagal trended within an hour. The footage showed him moving with calm precision, disarming 4 attackers with effortless grace. It looked cinematic, but everyone watching knew it was 100% real. In the corner of the diner, an elderly man smiled to himself. He had recognized Seagal from the start, but had kept quiet, observing. "That man hasn't changed," he said softly. "Still fighting the same way when with peace first." The waitress came over, still visibly shaken. "Was that really him?" she asked, her voice low. The old man nodded. "Steven Seagal, 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, law enforcement trainer, and man who's seen more fights than any of us can imagine." Her eyes widened. "And he just walked away." "That's what real strength looks like," the old man said. "It's not about hurting people. It's about knowing you could, and choosing not to." A few blocks away, Seagal walked calmly down the street, his long black coat swaying slightly in the breeze. His face betrayed no emotion, but his eyes were thoughtful. He knew what would happen next. The cameras, the interviews, the viral noise. But for him, that moment wasn't about fame. It was about control, about showing that calmness always wins over chaos. His phone buzzed. A message from an old friend, a fellow martial artist. "I saw the video, brother. You still got it." Seagal chuckled quietly to himself. "Never lost it," he murmured. Back at the diner, local news crews had arrived. Reporters were interviewing witnesses who could barely contain their excitement. "I swear he didn't even hit them hard," one young man said. "It was like they fell into their own attacks." "Yeah," another added. "It wasn't a fight, it was a masterclass." Clips started spreading across TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Millions watched within hours. Some people didn't believe it was real. Others argued over whether it was staged. But those who had been there knew the truth. and their testimonies only made the story grow bigger. One post read, "A group of bullies picked the wrong man. Steven Seagal didn't just teach them a lesson in fighting, he taught them a lesson in respect." By the next morning, major news outlets had picked it up. Headlines flashed everywhere. Bullies attack Steven Seagal and instantly regret it. Seagal's real-life martial arts lesson goes viral. Talk shows debated it. Fans revisited his old movies, amazed that his skills were still as sharp as ever. Young martial artists analyzed the video frame by frame, breaking down every movement, every technique. One Aikido instructor uploaded a video explaining Seagal's moves. "Notice how he doesn't fight back. He redirects. That's pure Aikido philosophy. He's not attacking, he's neutralizing energy. This is what mastery looks like." Meanwhile, the bullies had disappeared from public view, but online they were being roasted relentlessly. Commenters flooded their social media pages. "Next time, maybe don't pick a fight with a living legend. You messed with Steven Seagal and thought you'd win? That's like challenging gravity." Despite the humiliation, Seagal never mentioned them by name. He didn't post about it, didn't boast, didn't engage. Silence was his response. And somehow that made the lesson even louder. Later that week, Seagal was seen visiting a local dojo, the same one he had quietly funded years ago. The instructor greeted him with a respectful bow. "They're saying you went viral," the instructor smiled. Seagal shrugged. "It's not about that. The lesson matters more than the likes." The instructor nodded. "And what lesson was that?" Seagal looked around at the young students practicing. "That peace is stronger than pride. But peace must be protected." The students paused, listening intently. They'd all seen the video too. To them, Seagal wasn't just a celebrity anymore. He was a living embodiment of discipline. Back at the diner, a small sign now hung near the door. "Peace begins with respect." Inspired by Steven Seagal. The waitress, now smiling every time she looked at it, told customers the story almost daily. He didn't just protect himself, she'd say. He reminded everyone what real strength looks like. Have you ever seen someone turn violence into a lesson? Where are you watching this from, your city and country? Drop it in the comments. It had been 3 days since the diner incident, and the world was still buzzing. News anchors debated, influencers analyzed, and fans flooded social media with admiration. But Steven Seagal hadn't said a single word. No interviews. No statements. Just silence. That silence, however, spoke volumes. People were curious. Why wasn't he speaking up? Why wasn't he defending himself or capitalizing on the fame? But those who truly understood Seagal's philosophy knew the answer. He didn't need to prove anything. The lesson had already been taught. That evening, Seagal sat in his dojo, the same quiet place where he trained daily. The room smelled faintly of incense. Rows of students practiced in near silence, their movements slow, precise, and controlled. One of the younger students broke the stillness. "Sensei," he said softly, "everyone's talking about what you did. You showed the world real martial arts." Seagal looked at him, expression calm but serious. "I didn't show them martial arts," he replied. "I showed them restraint." The student frowned, unsure what he meant. Seagal continued, "Anybody can throw a punch, but very few can control when not to." The words hung in the air like a lesson carved in stone. Another student raised his hand. "But Sensei, those men attacked you. You had every right to fight." Seagal nodded slowly. "A right," he said, "is not always a reason." The dojo fell silent again. Outside, the sound of the evening wind rustled through bamboo leaves. Across town, news stations continued to replay the footage. One anchor said, "What's fascinating isn't just the fight, it's the discipline. Look at his posture, his control. It's as if he never even got angry." Experts from around the world began using the clip as a teaching example. In self-defense classes, instructors paused the video frame by frame. "See how he steps aside here? No aggression, no rage, just redirection." Some even called it the Seagal principle. But not everyone was celebrating. The bullies, now facing massive online humiliation, tried to release a statement, claiming the video was edited and that Seagal attacked first. It didn't work. Multiple witnesses came forward. The diner released full security footage showing exactly how everything happened, from the taunts to the first shove. The truth was undeniable. That night, the leader of the group sat in his small apartment scrolling through endless hate comments. His pride had taken a beating worse than his body. How did it all go so wrong? He muttered. A message pinged on his phone, a private number. Steven Seagal. No hard feelings. Learn from it. Control your anger before it controls you. The bully stared at the screen in disbelief. He read it twice, then a third time. There was no insult, no mockery, just a quiet reminder, one that cut deeper than any punch could. He typed back, "I'm sorry." No reply came. Seagal didn't need to respond. The lesson was already done. The next day, Seagal finally made a brief public appearance at a martial arts seminar in Los Angeles. Cameras flashed as he stepped on stage wearing his traditional black gi and calm expression. The audience erupted in applause. But Seagal raised his hand gently. "Please," he said, "don't clap for violence." The room went still. He continued, voice low but commanding. "What happened at that diner? That wasn't about fighting. It was about respect. It was about showing the world that you don't need rage to defend yourself. You need awareness, control, and peace." He paced slowly across the stage, hands behind his back. "The world is full of people who think anger is strength, but anger is weakness. True strength," he said, pausing, "is calmness under pressure." The crowd listened in complete silence. Cameras captured every word. He concluded, "If that video taught anyone anything, let it be this. Real warriors don't fight for pride. They fight for peace." Thunderous applause followed, but Seagal simply bowed slightly and walked off stage. Hours later, clips of his speech flooded social media again. People commented things like, "He's not just a fighter, he's a philosopher." That line, "Anger is weakness," gave me chills. This man just schooled the internet on what self-control really means. Even major figures, athletes, actors, and spiritual leaders began sharing his message. One tweet from a famous boxer went viral. Steven Seagal didn't just win a fight. He won respect for every martial artist who lives by discipline. Meanwhile, the diner where it all began became something of a landmark. Tourists visited just to take pictures near the booth where Seagal had been sitting. The owner put up a framed photo with a quote beneath it. "Calmness is power," and Steven Seagal. Every customer who came in asked about that day. The waitress, now somewhat of a local celebrity herself, would smile and say, "He wasn't angry, not once." That's what I'll never forget. If you were Steven Seagal, would you have reacted the same way, calm and composed? Or would anger have taken over? Type calmness if you'd keep your cool. By the end of the week, the diner incident had become a full-blown international story. News outlets across the globe replayed the footage, talk shows debated the moral behind it, and online forums were flooded with one question: how did Steven Seagal stay so calm? It wasn't just a viral clip anymore, and it had become a symbol. A lesson in self-control, humility, and strength. But for the four bullies, the aftermath was a storm they hadn't prepared for. Their faces were everywhere. Their jobs called. Schools found out. Families were ashamed. One of them, the youngest, avoided social media completely. He couldn't bear the comments and the memes, the jokes, the humiliation. He stayed indoors for days, haunted by guilt and regret. Finally, he decided to do something different. He walked into a local dojo. The same kind of place where Seagal had trained decades ago. The instructor looked up, surprised. "I saw the video," the young man said quietly. "I need to change." The instructor nodded slowly. "Then bow and begin." It was the start of his redemption, sparked by the man he once mocked. Meanwhile, Seagal continued to stay out of the spotlight, focusing on training, teaching, and peace work. But despite his silence, the world kept talking. In Japan, martial arts masters discussed the video at seminars. In the US, police academies played it during self-control training. In schools, teachers used it as a lesson about respect. One post summed it up perfectly. Steven Seagal didn't just stop a fight, he started a movement. Back in Los Angeles, a press conference was organized by the police department. The same officers who had once trained under Seagal in self-defense programs spoke about him publicly. Captain Ramirez, a veteran officer, said, "What Seagal did was exactly what every officer should strive for: control without aggression. He diffused violence without becoming part of it. That's mastery." His words echoed across news channels, turning Seagal from a movie star into a living symbol of discipline and restraint. But not everyone was impressed. A few media critics called it overblown hero worship, claiming it was just another celebrity moment gone viral. Seagal, however, remained completely unfazed. When a journalist asked for his response, he simply said, "If people learned something positive, then the moment served its purpose." No drama, no ego, just focus. One evening, Seagal visited the same diner quietly, without cameras, without fanfare. The owner and waitress recognized him instantly and rushed to greet him. "You came back," the waitress said, smiling. "I owed you a proper thank you," Seagal replied. "You handled yourself well that day," she blushed, still a bit starstruck. "Honestly, I didn't even realize who you were until afterward," Seagal smiled faintly. "That's good. I wasn't there to be recognized." He ordered the same cup of tea, sitting in the same booth as before. But this time something felt different. The atmosphere was peaceful, the air calm. At the counter, a few new customers whispered excitedly, this time not in mockery but admiration. "That's him, right? The guy who stopped those bullies? Yeah, man. And look, he's just sitting there like a regular person." Seagal overheard but didn't react. He took a sip of his tea, eyes thoughtful. To him, fame was irrelevant. What mattered was that maybe, somewhere out there, people were rethinking what power truly meant. A few moments later, the diner door opened, and in walked one of the bullies. The leader. He froze when he saw Seagal. The room fell silent again. For a moment, it felt like déjà vu, the same scene, the same setting, but a completely different energy. Seagal didn't move. He simply looked at the man, eyes calm but unblinking. The bully swallowed hard and walked up slowly. His voice trembled. "Mr. Seagal, I came to apologize." The entire diner went quiet. Even the clinking of cups stopped. Seagal tilted his head slightly. "You already did," he said. "No," the man replied, shaking his head. "Not properly. I embarrassed myself. I disrespected you. I disrespected everyone. I needed to say it to your face." Seagal looked at him for a long moment, then nodded once. "It takes courage to admit when you're wrong." The man's eyes watered slightly. "You could have ruined me. You could have pressed charges, but you didn't." Seagal's expression softened. "You were already punished by your own actions. What matters is what you do next." The man nodded, his voice breaking. "I started training. I'm trying to change." Seagal extended his hand. The man hesitated, then shook it firmly. The crowd, witnessing the exchange, broke into quiet applause. It wasn't for Seagal's fighting this time. It was for his forgiveness. Later that night, a short video of the encounter surfaced online, this time recorded by a diner customer. The caption read, "He forgave the man who tried to humiliate him. That's real strength." The clip went viral instantly. People around the world shared it, calling it the Seagal redemption moment. The next morning, Seagal gave one brief statement on social media, his first since the incident. Strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about conquering yourself. It was shared millions of times. Every comment, every repost carried the same message: peace through discipline. What would you have done in that diner if forgiven or walked away? Type forgive if you believe true power comes from peace. By the next morning, Steven Seagal's quiet act of forgiveness had taken the internet by storm. News channels, blogs, and social media feeds were flooded with the headline, "Steven Seagal forgives his attackers, and the world applauds." But what caught people's hearts wasn't just the fight, or even the forgiveness, it was the message behind it. A man once known for his on-screen toughness had reminded millions that real strength wasn't about domination. It was about restraint, compassion, and self-mastery. Clips from both incidents, the diner fight and the handshake, were now being played side by side. In one, Seagal calmly dismantled 4 bullies without anger. In the other, he extended a hand to the same man who had once insulted him. 2 moments, 1 message: power with peace. Across the world, people were deeply moved. In schools, teachers replayed the clip to students during assemblies. In police academies, instructors quoted Seagal's line, "Strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about conquering yourself." In dojos across Japan, Aikido masters nodded proudly. Their art form had never looked so pure. so alive. Even celebrities chimed in. A famous actor tweeted, "Everyone talks about fighting back." Seagal showed what it means to fight within. Respect. A professional fighter posted, "No one wins through rage. The calmest man in the room always has the advantage." Meanwhile, the bully Seagal forgave began to rebuild his life. The same media that had mocked him now followed his redemption story. He began training at a local dojo, cleaning mats, learning humility from the ground up. Months later, he gave his first interview. "I thought strength was about fear," he admitted. "But Mr. Seagal showed me it's about respect. I'll never forget that handshake." The clip went viral again, not because of Seagal this time, but because of what his actions inspired in others. For Seagal, life went back to its peaceful rhythm. He spent his mornings meditating, his afternoons teaching, and his evenings walking quietly through the park near his dojo. Every now and then someone would approach him, not for an autograph but for advice. "Sensei," one young man asked, "how do you stay so calm when people attack you?" Seagal smiled faintly. "Because they're not attacking me," he said. "They're fighting their own reflection." The student frowned. "What do you mean?" Seagal looked out toward the setting sun. "Anger always comes from within. If you don't feed it, it dies on its own." The boy nodded slowly, understanding. Weeks later, Seagal was invited to speak at a global martial arts summit in Tokyo. The room was packed. Fighters, teachers, students, and reporters from around the world had gathered to hear him speak. As Seagal walked to the stage, the crowd stood and applauded. But just like before, he raised his hand gently and said, "Please, don't applaud the fight." He waited for silence before continuing. "What happened in that diner wasn't about me," he said softly. "It was about choice. Every human being has the choice to act from anger or to act from awareness." He looked across the audience, his voice steady but filled with weight. "When you control another person's body, that's skill. When you control your own mind, then that's mastery." A quiet murmur of agreement filled the hall. Some people even wiped tears from their eyes. He finished with a final unforgettable line. "In the end, the strongest warrior isn't the one who wins fights. It's the one who prevents them." The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in deep, respectful applause. In the following weeks, that quote appeared everywhere and on posters, on gym walls, on motivational videos across TikTok and YouTube. Seagal's legacy had evolved. He was no longer just an action hero or martial artist. He was now seen as something far greater, a teacher of balance. And though he never sought fame or attention, the world continued to watch, learn, and be inspired. The same diner where it all began had become a quiet symbol of peace. A small plaque now hung near Seagal's old booth, engraved with his words, "Peace is power. Respect is strength." If you believe the world needs more calm and less chaos, and type respect in the comments. Let's honor those who choose peace over pride.